The story of Lacey Chabert and her Hallmark journey begins in a way that feels almost magical. For many people, when they think of Christmas movies, snowy nights, or warm family gatherings, her face comes to their mind. She has become a symbol of comfort, romance, and holiday cheer. Over the years, she has given viewers many memories that stayed in their hearts. Families sat together on couches, sipping hot cocoa, and watched her films with love in their eyes. She made them laugh, she made them cry, and sometimes, she even made them dream. But like every star, her path was not always bright. Some of her movies shined like diamonds, while others left the audience asking for more. And this is where the mystery begins. What were the best moments of her Hallmark career, and what were the ones that disappointed her fans? When people first saw her on Hallmark, they felt something different. There was an innocence in her acting, a real emotion that made every small scene look powerful. She could be standing near a Christmas tree, or decorating cookies in a small-town bakery, and still capture the heart of the viewers. This was her strength, the ability to make simple things meaningful. She didn't need big dialogues or heavy drama. A smile, a look, or a small gesture was enough. And this is why she quickly became known as the Queen of Hallmark Christmas movies. But behind every glowing title lies another truth. Not every movie can be perfect, and not every story can hold the same magic. Lacey's journey had moments that lifted her up and also moments that left fans quietly disappointed. This is where her story becomes even more interesting. Because when people love an actor so deeply, they also feel every high and low of their career. For every film that touched hearts, there was one that made viewers feel like something was missing. The balance of best and worst became a natural part of her Hallmark history. In her best works, she created characters that felt alive. A small-town girl who never gave up on love. A caring daughter who always believed in family traditions. Or a woman who found hope again during the most magical season of the year. These roles were not just written for her, it felt like they were written from her soul. People could see themselves in her characters. They could believe in her stories because she played them with honesty. That honesty was her gift, the key that opened the hearts of millions of Hallmark fans. Still, there were times when even her magic could not save a weak script. Some stories were too predictable, too flat, or too rushed. And no matter how much she smiled or cried on screen, the audience could feel that the spark was missing. These were the moments that made her fans shake their heads and wonder why she had agreed to such films. It was not about her talent, it was about the story not matching her strength. And this is the truth that every actor faces at some point. The interesting part is that her fans never stopped supporting her. Even when a movie did not work well, they would say, "At least Lacey was in it." They still tuned in, they still watched, because their love for her was bigger than their disappointment. This loyalty is rare, and it shows the power of her connection with people. She was not just another actress on television. She was a part of their lives, their holiday season, their traditions. As her journey continued, one question always stayed in the minds of her audience. Which movie was her best, and which was her worst? Everyone had their own answer. Some said her most romantic films were her best. Others said the movies with strong family values stood out more. But there was always a curiosity about the ones that didn't work. People whispered, discussed, and compared. It became a game of discovering the truth, finding the highest peak of her career and the lowest valley. And this is where the suspense begins. Because the story of Lacey Chabert's Hallmark career is not just about happy endings. It is about the mix of light and shadow, the mix of joy and disappointment. The narrator does not reveal everything at once. Instead, the words are chosen carefully, painting pictures of snowy towns, twinkling lights, and heartfelt promises. The audience knows they are on a journey, one that will reveal both the best and the worst. But they must stay until the end to see the truth. As the camera moves closer to her smiling face on the screen, viewers feel a wave of emotions. Some remember the first time they saw her in a Hallmark film and how it warmed their heart. Others think of the moments they felt let down, when the story did not carry the same charm. But no matter what, they all agree on one thing: Lacey Chabert is unforgettable. Her journey is not perfect, but it is real. And that is why the audience cannot look away. They want to know more. They want to see which films will rise to the top and which will fall to the bottom. This is just the beginning. The real truth, the real names of the best and worst, are still hidden. But the promise has been made. The story is about to unfold, and the audience will not be able to stop themselves from watching until the very last word is spoken. The story moves forward, and now the focus turns to the shining side of Lacey Chabert's Hallmark career. These are the moments that made people call her the Queen of Christmas. She was not just acting in movies, she was creating memories for families all over the world. When viewers think of the perfect holiday film, her name comes first to their mind. This was because of the special way she carried herself on screen. She didn't just deliver lines, she lived them. One of her most loved strengths was her natural charm. She could play the role of a simple girl living in a small snowy town and make it feel real. The way she looked at her co-star, the way she smiled when holding a warm cup of cocoa, or the way she expressed surprise at the first snowfall of the season, these small details made her unforgettable. Audiences believed in her because she made every scene feel like it was happening for the first time. This was not easy to do, but she made it look effortless. In her best movies, she became a reflection of hope. For many people who felt lonely during the holidays, watching Lacey's films gave them comfort. She reminded them of the warmth of family, the power of forgiveness, and the possibility of love. Her roles often carried the same message: no matter how hard life gets, there is always a chance for new beginnings. This message, repeated through her best works, became her signature. Her chemistry with co-actors also played a big role in her success. She was able to create natural connections on screen. Whether she was playing a young woman meeting an old friend again or a stranger falling in love during a holiday trip, her emotions felt real. Viewers could sense her heart in her performance. That is why even when the story was simple, it felt strong. She gave life to characters that could have been ordinary, turning them into something extraordinary. Many fans still remember scenes where she was decorating a Christmas tree with her family, or walking down snowy streets with soft music in the background. These scenes stayed with them because Lacey added depth to them. It was not just about acting, it was about sharing a feeling. And this is why people kept waiting for her next release, year after year. Her movies became a holiday tradition. But every shining moment also comes with its challenges. Even in her best works, there were always discussions about what could have been better. Some critics felt that Hallmark movies followed the same formula: a small town, a lost love, and a happy ending. But what made Lacey stand out was how she took this formula and made it feel new each time. She brought freshness to stories that others might have found predictable. This is why fans continued to support her no matter how many similar roles she played. In one of her strongest performances, she played a character who had lost faith in love but slowly found it again through kindness and patience. The audience connected with her journey because it mirrored real life. Everyone has moments of doubt, everyone has fears, and seeing her overcome them on screen gave people hope. These were the films that made her the best. These were the films that became unforgettable. As the narrator continues to describe her best movies, the suspense does not disappear. Instead, it grows stronger. Because for every shining memory, there is a shadow waiting to be revealed. The audience knows that not all her works carried the same strength. They know that the discussion of her best movies will soon lead to the question of her worst ones. And this thought keeps them waiting, keeps them watching. Still, Part 2 focuses on celebrating her best roles, the ones that made her beloved. The story paints her as a woman who gave her heart to her audience. Each role was like a gift, carefully wrapped with emotions and tied with love. For fans, these gifts were treasures they could revisit again and again. Even years later, people still return to those films when they want to feel the spirit of Christmas. This lasting impact proves the strength of her best performances. As the narrator closes this part of the journey, he leaves the audience with a feeling of admiration. They now remember why they love Lacey so much, why her name shines brighter than others in Hallmark history. But at the same time, the narrator leaves them curious. Because the story is not only about the best, it is also about the balance of best and worst. And the time is coming when that truth will no longer stay hidden. The mystery remains alive, the suspense keeps building, and the audience cannot help but wonder. If these were her brightest roles, what about the ones that failed to sparkle? The journey now moves to a different side of Lacey Chabert's Hallmark career, the side that not everyone likes to talk about but everyone knows is there. Just like her best movies brought joy, there were also films that left people feeling a little empty. It was not about her talent, because her acting always carried honesty and warmth. It was about the stories around her. Sometimes the scripts were weak, the direction felt rushed, or the magic simply didn't land. These were the moments when even her biggest fans sighed and thought, this could have been better. Audiences love to remember her shining roles, but they also remember the times when her movies did not work. In some films, the story felt so predictable that people could guess every scene before it even happened. The small-town romance, the unexpected snowstorm, the couple finding love in the last 10 minutes, it was all too familiar. And while this formula sometimes worked beautifully with her, there were moments when it became boring. Even with Lacey's charm, the story could not rise. One of the biggest problems in some of her weaker movies was the lack of chemistry with her co-actors. She had the gift to connect, but if the script did not support her or if the partner on screen could not match her energy, the result felt flat. The viewers wanted to feel sparks, they wanted to see a love story that made their hearts beat faster. But instead, what they saw sometimes felt forced, almost like two people pretending without emotion. Fans who adored her felt disappointed because they expected more from her films. Another issue was the overuse of clichés. While her best movies made clichés feel fresh, the weaker ones repeated them without adding anything new. A bakery in every film, the same Christmas tree lighting ceremony, the same lost and found love, it all began to blur together. Audiences still watched, because Lacey was there, but they could not help comparing. They thought about her better works, and the gap between the best and the worst became clear. For some viewers, these weaker movies felt like missed opportunities. They knew Lacey could deliver more, but the stories didn't give her space. Sometimes the emotions were rushed, sometimes the conflict was too simple, and sometimes the ending was so predictable that it left no room for surprise. People wanted to feel inspired, but instead they felt like they had seen the same movie many times before. But what made this part of her career emotional was not the failure itself. It was the way fans reacted. They did not stop supporting her. Even after a weak film, they would say, she deserves a better story next time. They never blamed her, because they knew she gave everything she had. They only wished the writers and directors matched her level of passion. This loyalty showed how deep her bond with the audience truly was. Some fans even described watching her weaker movies as a bittersweet experience. On one hand, they loved seeing her on screen. On the other hand, they felt sad because they knew she could have done more if only the movie had been stronger. It was almost like watching a friend struggle. You don't stop caring, but your heart hurts a little. The narrator speaks about this with honesty, not to criticize her, but to show the complete picture. Every career has highs and lows. Every star faces moments when things don't work as planned. What makes Lacey's journey interesting is that even her weaker films still carried a piece of her heart. And because of that, people still watched. This part of the story also creates suspense. Because now the audience is waiting. They want to know the exact names, the specific films that are considered the weakest. The narrator does not reveal them yet. Instead, he paints the feelings, the disappointment, the predictability, the missing spark. The details are left hanging, like secrets waiting to be uncovered in the next part. This way, the viewers cannot look away. They want answers, and they will wait for them. The beauty of this balance is that it makes her best films shine even brighter. If everything was always perfect, people might not appreciate her as much. But because there were weaker moments, her strongest performances stand out like stars in the night sky. Her career becomes more real, more human. The audience feels closer to her because she, too, faced struggles. As the part comes to an end, the narrator leaves the viewers with a mix of emotions. They feel admiration for her best works and sadness for the ones that did not live up to expectations. But above all, they feel curiosity. The question grows louder, If some of her movies are truly unforgettable, which ones are unforgettable for the wrong reasons? And when will the truth finally be revealed? As the story moves forward, the balance between light and shadow becomes clearer. On one side, Lacey Chabert shines like the heart of Hallmark, the actress who can make an ordinary scene feel like a memory people never want to forget. On the other side, there are films where even her brightest smile could not save the story. The contrast is what makes her career so fascinating, and the narrator now brings both sides together, side by side, like two faces of the same coin. In her strongest movies, the emotions feel deep and alive. She plays a character who is lost but slowly finds her way again, and the audience feels as though they are walking with her on that journey. Every tear she sheds feels real, every laugh carries warmth, and every reunion at the end makes people believe in love again. These are the moments that explain why fans call her the Queen of Hallmark. Her best films are not just entertainment, they are emotional experiences that people revisit year after year. But then, the narrator gently shifts to the other side. In her weakest films, something feels missing from the very beginning. Maybe it is the writing, maybe it is the pacing, or maybe it is the lack of spark between her and her co-star. Whatever the reason, the magic does not arrive. The same snowy town that once felt magical now feels empty. The same Christmas lights that once created warmth now seem like decoration without meaning. Viewers still watch, but instead of feeling joy, they feel a quiet disappointment. The comparison is not to put her down but to show how powerful her best moments really are. When you see both sides together, you understand her strength more deeply. It is easy to shine in a strong film with good writing, but it is much harder to carry a weak story. And yet, even in her worst films, Lacey never stopped giving her full effort. She still smiled with sincerity, she still delivered her lines with care, and she still tried to make the audience feel something. This effort is what makes fans continue to respect her, even when the final result is not satisfying. The narrator paints the contrast like a story of two paths. One path is full of warmth, glowing lights, and unforgettable memories. The other is filled with shadows, familiar steps, and endings that feel too easy. The audience is taken on a journey where they can see both paths clearly. They are reminded of the films they loved most, and they also remember the ones that made them shake their heads. But the suspense remains, because no names are revealed yet. The viewers are still waiting for the final answer. This back and forth between best and worst also shows how much she has given to Hallmark. Few actors have such a long history with the channel. Few have appeared in so many films, each carrying a piece of their personality. With so many movies, it is natural that some would be stronger than others. But what makes Lacey special is that her presence itself is enough to keep people watching. Even when the story disappoints, people tune in because they know she will at least make it watchable. The narrator speaks softly about the fans who follow her journey. When she shines, they celebrate with her. When she struggles, they stand by her. This loyalty is built not only on her talent but also on her consistency. She never walked away, she never stopped trying, and that persistence has made her a part of holiday traditions for countless families. At this point, the audience feels both admiration and curiosity. They admire her strength, her charm, and her dedication. But they are also restless. They have walked through the bright moments and the dark ones, and now they want the truth. They want to hear the names of the films that stand at the very top of her Hallmark journey, and the ones that sit at the very bottom. The suspense is stronger than ever, and the narrator uses this tension to keep them watching. By the end of this part, the comparison has been made clear. Lacey Chabert's career is not a straight line of perfection, nor is it a story of failure. It is a mix of highs and lows, of magical moments and missed opportunities. And that is what makes her journey so real, so human, and so worth watching. The audience knows the next part will finally reveal the truth. They lean forward, waiting for the names, waiting for the answers, waiting for the final piece of the puzzle. The narrator closes with a promise. The best and the worst of Lacey Chabert's Hallmark movies will finally be revealed. And when it happens, the audience will see her journey in a way they never have before. The journey now reaches its final chapter. For so long, the audience has been walking through the light and the shadows of Lacey Chabert's Hallmark career. They have seen her at her best, where she made simple stories feel magical, and they have seen her at her weakest, where even her smile could not save the missing spark. Now, the time has come to finally reveal the truth, the best and the worst of her Hallmark movies. The narrator begins with the best. Out of all her films, there are a few that shine brighter than the rest, but one in particular has touched the hearts of millions. It is the film where her acting, the story, and the emotions all came together in perfect balance. In this movie, she plays a woman who has lost faith in love but slowly rediscovers it during the holiday season. The snowy streets, the warm family gatherings, and the heartfelt conversations made it unforgettable. What makes this film stand out is not just the romance, but the message of hope. The audience didn't just watch a character fall in love, they felt like they were falling in love with life again. This is the film people return to every December, the one that never loses its magic. For her fans, it is not just her best Hallmark movie, it is a holiday tradition, a treasure. But every crown has its cracks, and every shining star has moments of struggle. The narrator then moves gently to the other side. Among all her movies, there are a few that fans quietly agree did not work well. And one in particular stands at the bottom. It is the film where everything felt too predictable, too rushed, and too flat. The chemistry with the co-star never truly connected, the story felt copied from better movies, and the emotions never reached the audience's hearts. Even with Lacey's full effort, the film could not rise. For many fans, it was the most disappointing part of her Hallmark journey. They still watched it, because of their loyalty to her, but when it ended, they felt empty. This became known as her weakest Hallmark movie, not because of her talent, but because the story gave her nothing to work with. The narrator does not speak these truths with cruelty, but with honesty. Because even in her worst films, Lacey Chabert gave her heart. She never looked careless, she never gave up. And that is why her fans never abandoned her either. They understood that not every movie could be perfect, but what mattered was her dedication. She always tried, and that effort is what made her unforgettable. The comparison of best and worst creates an emotional closure. On one side, her best film gave joy, comfort, and timeless magic. On the other, her worst film gave disappointment, but also reminded people that even stars face weak scripts. Together, they show the complete picture of her journey, a journey filled with beauty, struggle, and above all, resilience. As the narrator reaches the end, he reminds the audience of why they started this journey in the first place. It was not only to find the best and worst movies but to understand Lacey Chabert as an actress, as a storyteller, and as a part of their holiday memories. Her career is proof that even when stories fail, sincerity shines. Even when scripts are weak, honesty can still touch hearts. And even when the worst films appear, the best ones always rise higher. The final words carry both admiration and hope. The narrator tells the audience that the story of Lacey Chabert's Hallmark career is far from over. Every year, she continues to appear in new films, and every year, fans wait eagerly to see what she will bring next. Maybe another classic will be born. Maybe another weak film will appear. But either way, her place in Hallmark history is secure. She is the actress who became the soul of Christmas movies, the woman who turned simple stories into unforgettable experiences. The video closes with soft music, snowy scenes, and her smiling face on screen. The audience feels satisfied because they finally know the best and the worst, but they also feel emotional, because the journey has shown them something deeper. It has shown them that true stars are not measured only by perfection but by their ability to keep shining, even in the darkest nights. And that is the legacy of Lacey Chabert. Her best will always inspire, her worst will always teach, and her journey will always remain a part of people's hearts.